I'm gonna tell you something I've never told anyone. 30 years ago, my friends and I spent the night at a cabin. We found the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead. Certain passages were recited. It awoke something in the woods. Something evil. I was the only one to escape. But now, the evil has found me.
Hello and welcome to the Ash vs. Evil Dead podcast. This is a podcast focusing on the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV series that airs on Starz. Of course, this is based on the franchise of The Evil Dead, which is a highly respected franchise in the horror world. Joining me tonight, as always, is your friend and mine, Mr. Kyle Thomas. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing today, JP?
Not so good, because this is actually our second attempt recording this, because I was an idiot and did not record the first recording. It didn't record.
Hey, shit happens, dude. It's all good. We'll roll with the punches and we'll get it worked out. We'll make sure it happens.
Normally, I gotta say that people would not be, my other co-hosts would not be too pleased with me right now, so I respect that you are not bashing me and just bending me over and smacking me.
Well, I'll say this. I'm just glad that, because your other podcasts can be like 3 to 4 hours long, and I can imagine like you being 2.5 hours into a podcast and that happening. But we were only like, 15 minutes in, so...
Yeah, so not the biggest deal in the world. We'll get right back into it. But first, guys, if you're curious about us, we do a lot of other things. We have one podcast called the X-Files Podcast, in which we journey through the X-Files series similar to this one. So check that out if you haven't already, as well as my other podcast, which is 22 Shots of Moods and Horror, which is a complete horror podcast. We cover everything from news to reviews. And you can follow us on YouTube. Kyle is the Horror File. I am Double Shot J on YouTube. Our website's horrorphilia.com, the podcasting network, the best network out there, and our personal website, 22shotsofmoodsandhorror.com. This podcast will contain spoilers. Want everybody to know that right out the gate, because that's very important to us that you guys go into this knowing that these episodes will be spoiled, because you cannot talk about one episode without spoiling the previous episode when you're talking long-form reviews of TV shows. So, with that said, we're going to hop into episode number 3, which is titled Books from Beyond. Kyle, who wrote and directed this episode, and when did it air?
Yeah, so we are in episode 3, like JP said, Books from Beyond. It was directed by Michael J. Bassett, who actually directed the previous episode, Bait, that we had just done. It was written by Sean Clements, who JP said, didn't you say that he did a couple of things? I can't remember exactly.
Yes, he did very little. He did do a couple written jobs on Workaholics, which is actually quite a funny TV show. He did about 20 episodes of that, which is pretty impressive, or 10 episodes, actually, which is slightly less impressive. He did a lot of other things that don't matter, and he did this short film called Justin Bieber and Usher.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say, because I had mentioned before we had to re-record that Justin Bieber's new album was fire, and you were making fun of me for it. So I thought,
yeah, I believe I said something along the lines of, nobody in the history of mankind has ever said those combinations of words together. Justin Bieber, Usher, fire? No, never happened.
So funny, man. So funny. But yeah, like Sean Clements wrote the episode. This episode actually, original air date was November 14th, 2015. So exactly from yesterday of us recording this. We're recording this right now on December 15th. It probably won't come out for a little while. It's almost a month before we're recording this episode that this was aired. So
yeah, interesting.
You want to go ahead and get into the viewership?
Yeah, so as always, we'd like to talk about how many viewers these episodes got. And we actually, from the first episode, we had a little bit of a decline, and now we're back up again. We got a spike here, almost 100,000 viewers, I believe over 100,000 viewers from last episode, which was episode 2 bait, which is good because that means that people, for whatever reason, they tuned out in the second episode, but they came back. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a case of DVR. Maybe everybody DVR'd it and they watched the second episode that way. You never know with these things, and there's really not a lot of information out there. You can't really find DVR numbers. You can't really find the downloads on Xbox and the buys on Amazon Prime and all that stuff. So it's really all we have to go by is the viewership that is released to the public from the Starz Network the night that it airs, and that was 383,000 viewers.
Yeah, and like I was saying previously, it's really hard to say how these viewerships are. I mean, me and JP pretty much think that they're just going off of right off the Starz network. This is who's watching it on Starz. But as well, you can actually stream these, download these. So they're really not factoring in the entire. I mean, the viewership's probably much higher, I would assume, than what's listed on their Wikipedia page here. But yeah, I mean, it did jump up almost 100,000 viewers here, or over 100,000 viewers actually. So that is pretty cool to see. So.
Absolutely. So you want to get into this episode, buddy?
Yeah, we'll kind of get into the episode, and I kind of want to start out by talking about Lucy Lawless's character. So Lucy Lawless was, AKA Xena Warrior Princess back in the day.
Is that from that TV show that you're talking about?
Yeah, so Lucy Lawless played Xena Warrior Princess in the TV show back in the 90s.
Was that a show for girls?
It was kind of like a Hercules show. It was like Hercules was really popular, then they came out with like Xena Warrior Princess, which I wouldn't necessarily say it was for girls. It was like...
Is that just because you watched it?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely because I watched it. I was like so into like My Little Pony and Xena Warrior Princess. It was retarded, dude. I loved it. But yeah, Lucy Lawless, she's actually she hasn't been in this.
Just to cut you off real quick, that show I believe just got announced that it was being rebooted, Xena Warrior Princess.
That really wouldn't surprise me because she's in this. I mean, I feel like I think Xena Warrior Princess was super popular too, so that really does not surprise me. That's pretty cool they're doing that. But yeah, Lucy Lawless has been in this show just a couple of times. You've seen her character just a couple of times. She's kind of a mysterious figure at this point that we don't really know what she's doing. Her name's actually Ruby in the show, and she's a mysterious figure who's on a quest to stop the evil outbreak, and she believes that Ash is the one who's causing it. She just believes that Ash is the one who's causing all this, which technically he is. In a way, but it kind of opens
absolutely.
up. Yeah, definitely. And he kind of opens up with her character going to Kelly's house, because in the previous episode you saw Kelly, Kelly, Ash, and Pablo burying her parents at in the front yard of her house. Opens up. Lucy Lawless's character goes to the house, and you end up seeing Kelly's dad, who obviously in the previous episode died, coming up out of the ground. And he's being basically reincarnated as a Deadite. He's actually a Deadite. And she's kind of grilling him, asking him where Ash is, if Ash has the book. He won't say anything to her. He doesn't want to tell her. So she picks him up and basically impales him through the cross that's sitting there on his wife's grave, and tells him basically that, hey, if you don't tell me, then I can do worse things to you than just what I did. He still won't tell her, and she pulls out like a knife and kind of rubs it against his head. And this kind of looks like it kind of pulls out the demons, or starting to pull out the demons that are in him. And it's doing something really, really odd to his body. So it kind of cuts off, and that's really all you see of her in this episode. Kind of cuts off and goes back to Ash, and he's going to Books from Beyond, which is a bookstore where they it's basically a bookstore where they are going to try to translate the Book of the Dead. He's going to bring the Book of the Dead there.
Ash believes that the guy that works there can kind of decipher what the book means and stuff like that. And about the Lucy Lawless girl, I'm definitely getting a vibe that she is probably going to be set up as like a lead antagonist later on in the series.
Yeah, she's definitely getting set up for something bigger than she is currently. And I mean, you could just tell that from the little tidbits that you get from her. She seems like she's on the same level as Ash with knowing what these Deadites do. And that Deadite that she impaled, you can tell that she was like talking to it, and it was talking back to her like it knew who she was, sort of. So that was pretty interesting. But yeah, he goes to this Books from Beyond, tries to get this, the Books of the Dead translated. The guy that works there actually comes out of the back and asks if he needs help.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you actually have Kelly and Pablo chilling in the car, and they have a funny scene that I thought was pretty cool, where we talked about Pablo and his definite love interest with Kelly, and she's kind of talking to him, and she basically says like, I'm very glad you're here, and you're very much like a little brother to me. And instantly Pablo is like, you could just see the reaction on his face. He's like gutted because he likes her, and that's the last thing you want to hear if you like somebody is you remind me of a brother. So he's instant friend zoned. It's a very funny scene. I probably one of the funnier scenes in the episode for me personally.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was pretty funny because like Pablo's like all into Kelly, and then he kind of instantly gets like friend zone, like curved, and it's just a really funny scene to see his reaction.
He even says like, I could be badass. I mean, it's not. I don't think you want to like say that.
He's like, I could be a bad boy, and she just kind of looks at him and laughs, like,
nah, not really.
Like, you and your hair could not be a bad boy. No way, no how. But yeah, it kind of goes back into the bookstore after that. Like I said, Ash is bringing the Book of the Dead in there. The shop owner comes out and he's like, "Can I help you?" And then the character Amanda Fisher, which is the cop in the show, comes out from the back because she's kind of grilling the bookstore owner about where Ash could be. And he's like, "You can't help me, but she can." Like, looks over at her. He's like, "She can though." And she just kind of walks out and ignores him. Ends up going outside and having one of her cop friends send a drawing. So the cop friend sends her the drawing, and it looks just like Ash. So she actually goes back in and draws her gun on him and tells him to kind of like just put his hands down, behind his back. And all of a sudden, Pablo runs in and hits her over the head with a bone, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, and instantly when he finds out that she was a cop, he was like instantly regretted it and was like, "I just did that to a cop. Oh my god."
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, I can't believe I just did that to a cop," basically.
Which is very funny. It's definitely a comedic moment.
He kind of looks there and he's like, "Is that a good thing?" And like, obviously, it's not. It's funny. And they actually end up handcuffing her to a ladder, it looks like a ladder, so she can't get away, or like almost like a kind of like a shelf. So she's kind of tied up. Kelly's kind of watching her so she doesn't go anywhere. And Ash and Pablo go with the shop owner into another room so they can kind of start summoning. What Ash wants to do is to summon this demon so the demon can tell them how to get rid of all the other demons, which, if you think about it, is like the dumbest fucking idea.
Yeah, and there's the scene where the Lionel tells Ash that what he has in his possession is very important, and it's a gateway to hell, and it can summon evil. And it's funny because he says that it's pretty much harmless unless somebody very dangerous gets it, or very evil, or very stupid.
Yeah.
Which
obviously Ash is like stupid as hell. So yeah, they start summoning this demon, and they make this big circle out of salt and like symbols and stuff. And basically, the shop owner tells them they can't break the circle when he summons the demon.
Yeah.
So
but the demon that they're summoning, they want him to be a weak demon. And it's funny because there's a big scene where Pablo's like, "I don't think we should do this," and Ash is like, "Dude, we're gonna just summon a wimpy demon, it'll be fine." And of course, like, the viewer knows, like, I don't think there's a such thing, but of course Ash is like, "Look at that one looks pretty wimpy, get him out here." And the bookkeeper says that it is a demon that has the knowledge of hidden things, who preys on spiritually and emotionally weak. And you can tell right away that goes right over Ash's head. He has no idea what that means, and he's like, "Yeah, well, he can do that on his own time." And it's I actually busted out laughing at that part. It's so like Ash, putting his foot in his mouth, being dumb, boneheaded, all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really funny to see like some of these like lines that he actually says. There's just like, this show is made up of just like hilarious Ash lines, but yeah, and then all of a sudden, they summon this demon, and it, it comes out from the, in the middle of the circle. It looks a lot like, and I was telling JP before we got cut off last time, it looks a lot like Chatterer, the one of the Cenobites from Hellraiser. And who did you say you thought it looked like, JP?
I thought it either looked like something from Silent Hill mixed with like a Resident Evil crawler zombie. Or crawler, I don't know what they were really called, the lickers or whatever they were. I can't really remember, but it just kind of had that like pushed back smoothie flesh and kind of just the mouth thing. I don't know. Yeah, but definitely sort of a blend of all three, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looked a lot like a lot of the things from Silent Hill I've seen, and a mix of Chatter, like the Cenobite from Hellraiser. So it's a pretty cool looking demon. I mean, it's obviously the demon CGI, but it's a really cool and good. It's a good CGI demon. I mean, it looks really cool.
It got this like blur to it that I think is like maybe to hide some of the bad spots in it, but at the same time, it kind of gives it this like otherworldly look.
Exactly. So kind of at this point, like Ash is, kind of grilling the demon, asking him what he can do to get rid of all the rest. Of course, the demon's not going to tell him. The demon's kind of
it's
like,
not really working.
Demon's kind of like, screw off. I'm not going to say anything to you. So Ash kind of looks over to the bookstore owner, tells him just to send the demon back, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this demon throws some glass at the bookstore owner and basically
kills him. The first thing that actually happened was that they did have the demon contained, and when Amanda comes in, she actually knocks Ash into the circle, which essentially removes the spell binding circle from the demon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was going to say, the demon kind of comes out of the circle because, like you said, the Amanda Fisher comes in and kind of makes Ash move out of the way. So he kind of breaks that circle and the demon kind of gets out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when shit starts going haywire. Ash is shooting at the demon with his quote unquote boomstick. The demon's kind of just going all over the place. The demon really isn't doing much, to be honest with you. I was surprised. He's kind of just appearing and disappearing, appearing and disappearing. And it was really, really interesting to see. I was really surprised he didn't do as much as he did, but he did end up killing the bookstore owner. He did throw some glass at him, killed him. He knocked out Amanda Fisher, the cop. So Ash and Pablo and Kelly are kind of there, and this demon just kind of I don't know what he was doing to Ash really. He was kind of
it's kind of weird. It's like they take their soul or something. I don't really understand what.
Pretty much had its head and was you could see his skeleton. It was really, really odd to see this dude's he would the demon would hold Ash's head and you can see his it was almost like he was electrocuting him or something. And he actually did that to both Ash and Pablo, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, Kelly pops up, and since nobody could read the Book of the Dead to kind of send it back, she just hits him with the book and says, "Go to hell," and he disappears.
Yeah, which was kind of weird, right? I'm not really sure how that works.
That was the most confusing part of the episode to me. I didn't understand, if you summon the demon, why would just hitting it with the book send it back? They didn't really explain that. They didn't even really acknowledge it when it happened, which was kind of confusing. They just were kind of oh, okay, it's gone.
There's a lot of funny moments in this episode too, where Ash kind of is saying he said something about running like a whale or something. He made this analogy that totally didn't work.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I remember he was making. There was a couple of lines he said that just didn't make any really sense for the scene, but yeah, I mean, at this point, once the demon's gone, Ash kind of walks up to Amanda, and he's like, "So are you going to listen to me now, or are you going to try to handcuff me?" And she handcuffs this is a funny scene where she handcuffs his fake hand, and I guess she didn't realize it was a fake hand, and he kind of just takes it off and handcuffs her to the table that's right behind her, which was really, really funny to see. And I wrote actually a couple of funny one-liners that he said here during the next couple of scenes. So they go outside, they leave. Ash doesn't have his hand because he left it there with Amanda because he handcuffed it to the table with her. And Pablo's like, "Is it okay to just leave a cop handcuffed in there?" And Ash is kind of "What did you learn from today? Don't trust cops, or cops don't help." So kind of like a nod at how you don't trust a cop, which was kind of funny. They sit in the car and they kind of talk about how they're a team. Pablo's pretty stoked that Ash is considering him and Kelly a part of the team now. Pablo mentions that his uncle's a shaman. But he hasn't talked to him in a little while. And this was another funny line that I thought was hilarious, was Ash was like, "Well, I'll just take him a couple of Miller tall boys, and he'll be fine." Which was to me, that was so funny. Cause I don't know, it was just funny to hear. And then in the last scene of the episode, the cop that's handcuffed, is sitting there trying to get out. She hears a rustling, and the bookstore owner comes back to life as a deadite, and kind of just runs at her, and then the episode cuts off.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that maybe Lucy Lawless might show up there next episode or something like that. Not really sure. You never really know where it's going to go, but it definitely tried to leave on a little bit of a cliffhanger. But you pretty much have a feeling that the cops, she's not just going to die there. So
yeah, I mean, it's the third episode, and that cop seems like she's going to be a main character pretty much throughout the series, or at least for the first season. So I mean, I highly doubt that she's going to die.
I would be literally shocked if she died.
Yeah, I would be too. I know that she's considered.
This doesn't seem like that kind of show, really, to do like kill off main characters and stuff like that. This is more like a fun, just palling around, killing deadites type show.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it's like I said the last episode, it's like it talks a little bit about the episode. You get a little bit of background of what they're doing in the episode, the beginning of the episode. You get a lot of action, middle to end of episode, and then you get somewhat, of a cliffhanger kind of idea of where the next episode is going to go. And that seems like it's going to be the format pretty much for this series.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of wraps up this episode, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of this of the third episode. I guess we can get to our thoughts.
Yeah, overall, I thought there was a lot of funny dialogue in this one, maybe more so than the previous episode. There's just funny moments where Ash tries to make up these analogies that completely don't work, where he's talking about, bringing the demon back and stuff like that. There's also a little bit of character development between Amanda and Kelly, actually, where they talk, because meanwhile, while all this stuff was going on, Kelly was holding Amanda at gunpoint in the other room. They have a little chick bonding time there. Of course, Pablo has some funny lines. The bookkeeper guy has some funny lines. It's a very contained episode. They really spend time at this bookshop. And one thing that I was going to say, Kyle, is this TV show is kind of reminded me of like a video game. Like each episode is another level or like a boss battle or something like that. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is kind of odd. It does seem like it's kind of structured like levels of a video game in a way, which honestly kind of works for the series. I mean,
yeah, for a quick hit 30-minute TV show, it definitely does.
Definitely works, and I definitely so far I am enjoying this. I am enjoying this series. I think it's a pretty fun, comedic series, and it definitely brings back a lot of the pivotal, moments that everybody loved from the original Evil Dead. So
yeah, it's just fun to see Ash back. Like I find myself just kind of looking at the screen like, I can't believe this is happening right now. It's really cool. I'm a fan of the character, so it's cool to see him back. He's just back being him.
Yeah, exactly. And then who would have ever thought that a movie that was made in the 70s, a horror movie in the, we're in 2000, almost in 2016, in 2015 they would come out with a TV show of it. So it's really interesting and cool to see. So
yeah. So with that said, I guess we should get into our tier ratings. This is where we kind of just say between both of us what the tier level is. There's high tier, mid tier, and low tier. We said last episode that we don't really have an example of what a high tier, low tier, mid tier episode really is. We don't have that much of a reference point because we've only been 3 episodes in. But just based on what we do know, where would you kind of sit this one?
I mean, this one, it was really cool to see more of the Book of the Dead be kind of like the main story aspect of this episode, which I liked. You didn't really get in my opinion, you didn't really get a whole lot of, all they pretty much this episode kind of dealt with was dealing with sending the main theme, sending the Deadites back, which is, kind of the main plot of this series. But I mean, I would just venture to say this is probably a mid-tier episode. It didn't give you it gave you a decent cliffhanger at the end, but there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue in it. It was kind of just like you're fighting this one, Deadite, and they're just kind of trying to translate this book. So I would just give it. I would give this episode a mid tier.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. It is just a basic episode again. I mean, there is a lot of complexity in terms of the jokes in the episode, but compared to something that really where I would be blown away, it's just not. It's just a mid-tier episode in my opinion. Again, mid-tier does not mean bad. I love this show. I really do. I love this episode. It's just not something that's going to blow me away. So I definitely say mid-tier as well, Kyle.
For sure. Kind of get out of this episode, guys. I just want to say, whoever's listening out there, we appreciate you guys listening. You guys are awesome. Keep it up if you guys are listening. We're just trying to commentate, let you guys kind of know how this episode, how these episodes are going, what we thought of them. And also, JP and I and myself do have YouTube channels. He is Double Shot J on YouTube. I am the Horror File. And check us out. Subscribe to the page. We do horror reviews, do unboxings, all kinds of cool stuff. We actually post all of these podcasts on our YouTube page. So if you don't have iTunes or you can't find it anywhere, you can always, go to our YouTube channels, listen to them on the channel, or on the YouTube app. Anything you want to say, JP?
Yeah, I believe that by the time you guys probably hear this third episode, we should be on iTunes by now. It'll probably be under Ash vs. Evil Dead Podcast or 22 Shots Presents Ash vs. Evil Dead Podcast. Not really sure. We are recording these episodes well before we're actually going to post them online. And I'm pretty sure that Horophilia will be hosting this. And I know that they will be. So you can check us out on Horophilia as well.
Yep. It's pretty stoked. So yeah, guys, appreciate you guys listening. Be on the lookout for the next episode. And until next time, peace.
Peace out, guys.